Today is Friday, July 13th, 2007,
Right.
and we're interviewing Reginald Grier, or Reggie Grier, at the College Park Aviation Museum. Colonel Grier is 79 and was born on April 8th, 1928. I am Lars Wilcutt, and I'll be the interviewer today. Cheryl Jewett will be running the camera and the sound system. Colonel Grier served during World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War in the Army. His highest rank was colonel, and he served in Italy during World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. Thank you for coming today. Tell us a little bit about how you joined the military.
I joined the military directly after graduating from high school in January 1946 because I wanted to take advantage of the GI Bill to help with the college expenses. I wanted to go to college after that. Being in the Army as an enlisted man and reaching the rank of sergeant, I felt that I could very easily do well as an officer. Mm-hmm. So I got out at the end of my enlistment in 1947 and went to City College in New York, where I went to the ROTC program.
Excellent. So I don't want us to skip too far ahead, but you were living in New York, you said. And
I was born and raised in New York. Okay. I never moved out of New York.
Okay.
I lived in the same house, 128th and Madison Avenue. All of my...
the Army moved you out for a while.
Yeah. Yes. The Army moved me out right after I enlisted.
Right. And you said you went to basic training in Louisiana.
In Louisiana.
And you were telling me a story earlier that I'd like you to repeat if you don't mind. About, going into town.
After 5 weeks of grilling basic training, they gave us a day to go on pass in Louisiana. I forget the town. And anyway, I had to go in on a trolley car. And the trolley car had a sign that said white only in the front and black only behind it. And it was a movable sign from seat to seat. Mm-hmm. So I sat behind the sign that said colored only. And then a woman came in and it was crowded up front, so she moved it back, which meant I had to get up and move behind the sign. And I refused to do that. And the bus driver, the woman went to complain to the bus driver, the trolley car driver, and he said, well, leave him alone because he must be from the north.
And they left you alone?
They left me alone.
Good. Excellent. So,
I must tell you, if you want this part of the story, I took that sign on the way back. I took it and I hung it up outside of my barracks, colored only. And the company commander, they never ratted me out. But the commander said, whoever did that, you know it was wrong, bum, 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 bum. Mm-hmm. And took it down.
That sounds like a nice story. So anything else about, what else about basic trainings sticks in your mind?
No, basic training was for a New Yorker. I was made an acting corporal, squad leader, again because I was a high school graduate.
Right.
And I could write and read and so forth.
Did you find anything about basic training particularly tough?
No, not for me. No, because in high school, I was an athlete. I was track and field mostly. But the one thing I did find about basic training is that there were quite a few black soldiers from the South who had little or no education. And I used to write letters to home for them.
Right.
I charged them.
That's nice.
A couple of bucks.
And that, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't do that.
That's the New York way.
Right.
New Yorkers will do that.
Earn a little extra money, that's fine.
Yeah. So we were only getting about $22 a month or something, $27, whatever it was.
Right, right. So you said after basic training, they shipped you off to Italy.
Right.
And what did you do there?
Well, in Italy, they formed this 19th MP company, which was an all-black MP company, and they tried to put us in a place where we would be, where black soldiers were, but that was not the case. We were in Pisa, and that was near Pisa Air Base, which was all white. It was the Army Air Field in Pisa, and as a military policeman, I used to pick up anybody who was drunk or disorderly or what have you, and take them to the police station.
Which is what you should do, right? Yeah. Okay.
And then they gave me a bad time, but they still got locked up. But when I was the desk sergeant myself, I heard all this noise outside the door. And the door opens up, and in comes these two white Army airmen. And he said, "Oh my God, they got him in here too."
Oh.
He was giving me a bad time because he said, "Wait till we get to the police station," and he just knew there was going to be a white desk.
Yeah, the white desk sergeant will clear this up for us.
He was not there. So that was, and of course, the only other thing I did was significant. I had a soldier jump off the leaning tower of Pisa, and the only time I ever went to the top of that thing, except when I went back with my wife, was to investigate the suicide.
Wow.
And that's what it was. I was up there looking for a note or something. I found nothing. But his company commander said that he was having all kinds of trouble with home and so forth and so on.
Right.
He was despondent and
now you
took
have
his own life.
There was another picture in here of you directing traffic, if I remember.
Oh yeah, that was when I first got there. That was my first job as a military policeman in the 90th MP company, was directing traffic.
So was there a progression of duties when you? It seems like directing traffic might be the first thing you do, and then you move on to...
Well, this was the first thing that I did because this was our first effort before we ever got a police station. We were in the middle of Pisa, and the town is American, call it Leghorn, but the town is Livorno. And I took my wife back there. On the back here, directing traffic at intersection in Livorno, Italy, 1946. And by the way, I was pretty good at it. I still, till today, I stop this traffic, take that traffic away. Stop this traffic. Yeah.
You can't cross the street without thinking of doing that.
That's right. I told my wife that I get out of the bus where we stopped, and I said, "This is my corner," and I showed her what I was doing, waving traffic this way, traffic this way. I still remember.
So you pick up drunks, you investigate suicides, you direct traffic. What are some of the other things that you had to do as an MP there?
Well, a lot of them are accident reports. There were a lot of accidents, and that's how I made sergeant. I was a corporal here in the Jeep with
this one here, right?
Yeah, and
you're on the left in this picture.
And I was writing up an accident report, and Captain Morgan, who was our company commander, very fine gentleman, black gentleman. He came to me and says, "Well, let me spell this word for you. I don't remember what the word was, comprehensive or something." I said, "Sir, I can spell that." So, oh. So then he had me doing all the reports, and the next thing I know, within a couple of weeks, he promoted me to sergeant, and then I became a desk sergeant.
Desk sergeant. He decided you're so good at writing reports, he make you the desk sergeant.
Well, and I did show some leadership.
Right. Obviously, you had the other things as well. Yes.
Yeah.
So, what were you? Besides surprising the white airmen as desk sergeant, what were some of the things that you had to do as desk sergeant that were different than what you had done on the street?
Well, first of all, you had to deal with all kinds of individuals and women. Now, I had two Greeks who were my interpreters. And women would come in, and they were either prostitutes or girlfriends that were beaten up by their American boyfriends,
right,
and so on. And they tell their story to the interpreters, and then they would tell me what it was, and then I would decide whether or not to hold the airman or whoever it was until such time as the company commander came. And the company commanders came in and they saw me. They said, "Were you the one that called me to come down here?" "Yes, sir." Boy, they didn't like blacks very well.
Well, so what was that? I mean, it sounds like you dealt with it pretty well, or maybe you're making it sound like it now.
Because I was a New Yorker. My compatriots, like my partners there, they were all from the South, so they expected that kind of treatment, and they just took it in stride.
Right.
I fought against it for the most part.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's probably another reason why they made you desk sergeant.
But you see, the only thing was that they left me alone and went after the other guys.
Right.
So. And I couldn't change them.
Right.
Well, in fact, I wouldn't even try to change them.
Right.
But that was my initial entry. And of course, when I got out, it was still a segregated army. You know, in 1948, President Truman integrated the military services.
Right. So after you were in Italy for
I was about
a year or so.
months.
Okay. And so what happened after that? What did you do after?
Oh, I came home and I was discharged from active duty, and unbeknownst to me, I was put in the reserves. And in 1952, I was called back. I used to go to summer camp, 2 weeks, and they put me in a CID unit, criminal investigation. And that's what I did in Korea for 8 months.
So what did you do from 47 to 52 or 48 to 52 when you?
Well, I was going to City College.
Okay, right. Okay.
Yeah, and working in the post office.
So 1952, you get called up, and you're
8 months, and then I missed a semester, and I returned to City College.
So they shipped you out to Korea?
Yeah.
And so what was that like?
Well, all I did there was just an investigation, mostly instead of combat deaths or injuries, it was incidents or injuries inflicted by accidents, motor vehicle accidents, small aircraft. We didn't have any helicopters. Over there, we had the L-19s and L-20s.
Oh, right, right.
1 and 2 motor jobs, and I would investigate those. So even though it was criminal investigation, I did more civilian type investigation of accidents as opposed to combat deaths. And of course there were quite a few robberies and a rape here and there.
So where were you in Korea at this time?
In Tucson.
Busan?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Okay, so down at the south.
Right. Oh, you?
Yeah, right. So I've been there, right. Actually, I like that city. So you're there for, you said, 8 months.
Yeah, so a little less than.
Okay, and then you're discharged again.
Yeah, from active duty, and I was still in the reserves. They
right.
just relieved the reserves from active duty. Like today, they're not doing that.
Right.
They're doing the second and third tours.
Right. Right. So you come back, you make up that semester you lost at the City College in New York, and then what?
And then I was in the ROTC program. I didn't miss anything ROTC because I didn't have to take the first 4 semesters the basic.
Because you had that already.
I was a veteran, right?
Right.
So I immediately became an officer, and I was a cadet lieutenant colonel when I was commissioned in June of '53.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And so you're commissioned as a reserve officer, though, right? Well, let me.
That's right. I was a reserve officer. But you see, I was a DMS, Distinguished Military Student. So I don't remember whether I got the regular Army commission after. I think maybe it was after. But in any case, I became while I was a lieutenant, I became a regular Army officer.
Right. Okay. So
otherwise, I would have never been able to stay in to be a colonel.
Right. Right. So what did you? So what happened then? Let's start when you become a regular Army officer. Where were you stationed?
Okay. I went to Fort Benning to what they call jump school, which is parachute school, and went through the training, got my wings. Then I went to a jump master school, and then I was sent to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, to 11th Airborne Division. And there I became the communication officer for the 503rd Parachute Infantry Regiment, or Airborne Infantry Regiment. Back then they called it Parachute Infantry, then it was changed to Airborne Infantry. Yeah. And I was there for 3 months, 3 years. We jumped in Alaska. We went on several exercises until 1956, which time the division went to, the Airborne Division went to Germany. Well, I had orders for Korea in '56, and so I said, well, let me go to Korea. So I didn't want to go with the 11th Airborne Division anyway. So I went to Korea. I was there from 56 to 57. Yeah. It was a 16-month tour in Korea then. And I was in the 21st Division, 21st Infantry. And I was they call it communication officer then, as opposed to signal officer, which they do today.
Right.
I was in Signal Corps.
And so what were your duties as the signal officer?
I had to ensure that there was communications up and down to the lower level, to companies when I was with a battalion, and up to regimental headquarters. And then when I was at regimental division headquarters, I was responsible for communications down to the division artillery, the infantry battalions, which there were generally 3 battalions, then the division artillery, and the support units. So I was responsible for communications to all of those, both radio and VHF, which was a voice.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind me asking, and if you want to talk about it, I'm curious. You know, you're in the service when, or you've experienced the segregated military, and now you're in when, at least officially, it's desegregated. And I'm curious if we'd be willing to share some of your thoughts on how things are different. You're in Korea in 1956, 1957. You were in Italy in a segregated unit. How are things different?
Well, the Army changed as a result of the policy, but the individuals did not change.
Right, right.
I had a company commander. I was in headquarters in headquarters company. He and the communications officer, and the communications was in that company. And the same thing when I was at the battalion level. Mm-hmm. And at the regimental level, it was headquarters company.
Right.
And every time I had a company commander who just didn't like blacks for some reason. Well, they weren't used to them.
Right.
And they didn't think they could do anything. And I had the best communications, and when we went to Alaska, I jumped in everything on Akios. Everybody had their snowshoes and skis, and the Akios I had donuts, which is a half-mile wire. It was a donut shape, mm-hmm. And I had them spliced together. And so I said, "You follow that battalion commander. I don't care where he goes. You just follow him with that Akio, and you will not run out." I said, "Unless he goes better than 2 miles." You better have another donut ready. So he had the telephone anytime he asked for it. And so I got the title of being one of the best tactical communicators in the United States Army.
You obviously knew what you were doing. I'm wondering if that translated.
It was easier for me because I understood.
Yeah.
And I attribute that to my New York background and education.
Mm-hmm. Now, once you were able to show these company commanders that you did know, did they end up accepting and respecting you, or did they?
No, as a matter of fact, one of them I had to talk to him. I said, "How could you give me this mediocre efficiency report when I have done better than anybody in this battalion?" And to him, a black person could only do so good. Otherwise, I could never match or get the equivalent of a white officer's sufficiency report.
Because
he just couldn't do it.
Right, right.
But you see, when I became a battalion commander, things were different. Everybody was on the basis of strength and leadership and capability. And that's when I became a battalion commander, that's when my junior officers began to appreciate me as being a fair and equal person.
Right, right.
And that's, again, because of my New York background.
So you're in Korea from 56 to 57. Then where do you go?
Oh, 57. Oh, yeah, I went back to Fort Bragg, the 52nd Battalion, 18th Airborne Corps. So I was back in another parachute jump unit.
Right.
Yeah, for 2 years. And in 59, I went back home for Christmas. And the woman that was supposed to go out New Year's Eve said she had a boyfriend that was local. He's not in the Army, he's here. So I'm sorry. So I ran into Dorothy Jones. And to make a long story short, that's 48, what's today, the 13th? The 11th was my 48th.
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations. So,
great story.
Yeah. And I knew her, and I just happened to run into her on the way out after this woman turned me down, and I walked out, "Oh, hi, David." because we grew up together. I was her brother and I are junior high school and high school classmates.
That's great.
Yeah. So that was '59, and I had a military wedding.
Mm-hmm.
The battalion commander, Colonel Van Sloan, 50th Signal Battalion, sent an airplane up with 6 officers, all buddies of mine. They happened to be all white. And then they held the swords when I came out of the church, my wife's church, St. Well, St. Aloysius was my church. Her church was, can't think. That's where we were married in her church.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and so we had a nice reception at Fort Wadsworth on Staten Island, and they had a parachute. They brought a parachute with them, and they hung it up on the ceiling of the officers' club. Mm-hmm. And then they put a little flight attendant. In those days, it was stewardess. Mm-hmm. And she always got blown into the water. But we met her at my bachelor party down in the Village. You heard of the Village, mm-hmm. New York City. Okay, well, we met her down there. She and a couple of her friends, she's Chinese. And she dared me to come to the reception. She came, and they had her in this parachute, and she almost got blown away. So we were leaving, so, oh my God. So that was a good story back at Fort Bragg when we got back from the Dominican Republic is where we had our honeymoon.
Oh, nice. So you were in the 18th Airborne Corps for
2 years.
2 years.
And then I went to Hawaii. Everybody said, "Oh, Hawaii." It was good for my wife, but not for me. I was in 25th Division. And I was in the
125th?
No, the 127th.
Okay.
No, you're right. The 125th Signal Battalion. Yeah. It was 25th Division, 125th Signal Battalion.
I was in the 125th MI Battalion.
Oh, you were in the MI?
Yes.
Okay. So you're in Hawaii?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So you know. Yeah, all right. And so I was in that battalion for 3 years, but I was a division radio officer. And I was on the task force. And task force was always going someplace. I went, this whole bunch of pictures here. 6 months in the Philippines. I was instructing in the 1st Tabak Signal Battalion. And that's the battalion commander and some of the officers that I trained. I was sent there to train them in systems American systems that we installed in the Philippines.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, he's support team leader. I was a captain then.
There's Captain Grier.
Yeah. 1st Infantry Division, 1st Division, Philippines, 1962. So I finally came back from Hawaii in 1963. I was in Laos, Cambodia, all these task forces, and I was in Hawaii long enough to go to Maui to wood badge training. I was also a scoutmaster there. I had the I think it was 136 Boy Scout troop. 136.
So you got to travel quite a bit, but not around Hawaii all that much, except for this scouting trip.
And my mother came over and we went to the Big Island.
Oh, excellent.
Took her over there.
Right.
Yeah. I was there long enough to do some things, but I was gone quite a bit. Of the 3-year tour, I was probably gone more than half the time on task force responsibility.
Those were my experiences as well, so I can empathize.
Okay.
But it's not about me, it's about you.
Well, that's good, though. These are all Philippines, yeah.
Looks like you're just posing for pictures in the Philippines.
Yeah, one of them, we have the I still have my bayonet at home. I should have brought that with me, because it would have been a good picture.
Well, that would have frightened me.
Yeah. Here they are.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
Well, they gave us all a bayonet. See, it was the first division, Tabak. And Tabak in Philippine, Filipino, is bayonet.
Ah, well, that makes sense then.
So it was a bayonet division.
Right.
First division bayonet, and they gave us all
Tabaks.
This is my crew here.
Right, right. So you are going from all over the place, and particularly Southeast Asia. But it sounds like you're going on all of these task forces before major combat operations in Vietnam.
Oh yeah, well yeah. Actually, what I was the same systems that I was putting in Cambodia and Laos and the Philippines, the same systems I used when I was in Vietnam. Shooting back to those people.
Right.
Those are VHF systems.
Now when you were in Vietnam, you weren't in the 25th Infantry at that point.
Oh no. I was in 39th Signal Battalion.
Okay.
That was the first battalion, the only battalion in Vietnam in 1965. Then they came in with the first Signal Brigade. But we had the whole country, and I was the operations officer and the XO of the 39th Signal Battalion, and I was never in Saigon or Tabak. I was always going to one of my sites, either relieving somebody who wasn't doing a job, was drunk or whatever.
Right.
And generator problems, and I had to send generators down, and all kinds of things. But we maintained communication. I had to go up to where were the Marines? Well,
I can't remember.
Anyway, I had a microwave system to the Marines, and then the 25th Division came over in 1966, and I went there and I knew the battalion commander because he was in the battalion at the same time I was.
Right.
And I said, how many of you? I said, I'll give you 24 channels. Because I had to hook into his 12-channel equipment. He didn't have microwave. He only had VHF. So 12-channel equipment. So I said, well, give me two systems, and I'll give you 2 frequencies, and then you come back to MAC-V, which is U.S. Army of Vietnam.
Right. Right.
So I was all over the country, and then when they formed the brigade, General, I think his name was Rich, came over, and I had to take him around down the Delta, every place that I had communication. Could you turn that off for a second?
Yeah, just hit the button real quick.
Okay, now it's back on. I didn't want that to be on.
Right, that's fine. Where are we now? It's 1967, 66?
Well, 66 is, yeah, I'm coming back from Vietnam.
So you've set up the communication systems, everything's running smoothly, it's time to move on to the next challenge at that point.
No, it's my year.
Okay.
Tour was up. And in those days, it was just a year. Well, anybody went to Vietnam, and you go back for second and third tour. But as it turned out, it was 2 years turnaround time for majors. By the time my 2 years was up, I was a lieutenant colonel. So it was 3 years for lieutenant colonels. And by the time the 3 years was up, I was on the list. I wasn't promoted yet,
okay.
But I was on the list for colonel. So I never went back to Vietnam. But when I came back from Korea, I went to 82nd Airborne Division, and I commanded the 82nd Signal Battalion. And I did very well there, I think.
So you spent, how many jumps would you say you made? I mean, you...
126.
126 jumps. No injuries?
Just a couple, but you know, ankles and shoulders. You know, we used to jump a T7, which was the first chute, and you come out, and the canopy would come out first. It would get caught in the pop blast, and it would whip you, and boom, it would catch you off. So if you weren't prepared for it, you could throw a shoulder out of whack there.
Right.
And then, of course, I landed badly a couple of times and sprained ankles and had to limp around for a while. But, you know, serious injuries.
The normal things you'd expect.
Yeah. And one time I had the risers, I landed and the wind was blowing so badly on the ground that I got the riser out and I couldn't get it off. I could pull it and it would stop and then it boom again. And a friend of mine came from nowhere, grabbed the apex of the parachute and went around the side and relieved the thing. I'm sure I would have died.
Right.
Yeah. And I was his best man twice. His first wife died, and
right.
He got married about a year ago again. Walt McMahon. And so we're still good friends. Yeah. And he was the guy who, when I was at Fort Bragg, when I was in the 11th Airborne Division at Fort Campbell, he was my roommate in the BOQ. And everybody, after we went to the club, they said, well, let's go downtown and go to the bar. He knew that I couldn't go down. So he said, well, I'm tired. And so, Reggie, you're tired too? Yeah. So we went back to, he was Irish. But he tried to spare me. He knew that I couldn't go down to the club. It was, that was 1950. 54, 55. Yeah. Still anyway, he came to New York, and as a matter of fact, he was married the first time. He married a New Yorker. He was married at Fort Hamilton by the division chaplain there, who was a Catholic chaplain.
Right.
Yeah. And I was the first lector. I don't know if you know anything about the Catholic Church, but
not really.
Okay, well, you got lectors now. Well, I was the first lector in 1965 when they first started having lay people read the scriptures, the first and second readings. And in those days, the priest had to read the gospel.
Right.
But now the deacon does that. But things change.
Yeah, right.
But I was the first lector.
All right.
In the church, and then it's spread out all over.
Right.
And today I coordinate the lectors at my church.
Oh.
And I'm a lector and chief usher at the Shrine of the Immaculate Conception.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So
you got to go on.
Yeah. So no, this is great. So what did you? So you're in the 82nd Airborne. You've come back from Vietnam. You're in the 82nd. How do you round out your military career? We're getting close.
Then I went to from there to the Commanding General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and then after that, I went to Korea, back to Korea again in 1969. Commanded the 127th Signal Battalion. And I got repetitive command because of my efficiency report. So I got another command, and that was a very challenging job. And General Moore, Harold G. Moore, you remember the movie we were soldiers. Okay, well, he was a battalion commander in Vietnam, and that was his battalion.
Oh, okay, right.
It was his book.
Right.
Well, he was my division
That
commander.
name sounded familiar. Okay.
In Korea. Yeah.
Now, 60. I can't remember exactly. I mean, that time was kind of turbulent in Korea, wasn't it? I thought there were some political issues.
Yeah. Well, we were about to move off the line, if you remember. First Division. I was the last battalion commander of the 127th Signal Battalion at Camp Casey. And after that, they moved the 1st Division back and deactivated the 7th Division.
Okay. Right.
And then the South Koreans took over the line.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the only really turbulence there. It was the switch from Americans to South Koreans.
Right. And
of course there were some people killed by the North Vietnamese when they took over. It was a little turmoil on the line there.
Right. Right.
That was 1970.
And so so what happens after Korea? You're there for.
Okay. So then, by the way, my battalion sponsored an orphanage.
Oh.
And I used to go there every Wednesday. We used to have exercise, what do they call it, organized athletics. And the troops could either do that or they could go to the orphanage and play with the kids. And I got the engineer battalion to build a playground there. And I had this one little 2-year-old that used to follow me around. She used to go to the infirmary with me, where we had something like 15 infants. And they knew I was coming on Wednesday, and they used to all scream. And she used to go around and tell them that he'll be here. Well, to make a long story short, she is now in Florida, and I got 4 grandkids. I adopted her and brought her back.
Oh, wow. Excellent.
And so she's 42 now. She came when she was 2, didn't speak a word of English. Now she doesn't speak a word of
Korean.
So I promised I was going to take her back, but I said, you two tied down now. We got 4 kids. I think the youngest one is maybe 7.
What a great story.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. So my wife said, so I had to wait a day to come back because she had to have a seat on the plane.
Right.
And so when she got back, my wife was at the airport with my other daughter to meet her.
Huh.
At the time, and she couldn't speak English, so I put them in the same room together, and for a while it was Korean. They both were speaking both languages. you know, kids are funny.
Right.
They're about the same age, 10 months apart. And so all of a sudden the Korean just disappeared. And I was stationed at the Pentagon at the time. I came back and I stayed in this area until I retired.
So what about after? What did you do in terms of a career after you retired?
Okay, well, the first thing I did was that I went down to Fort Bragg for All-American Week, and I was the speaker. And the theme of my speech was, what are you going to do when they come for you? That means when you get out, what are you going to do? Because the military is not a lifelong career.
No, that's right.
Because if you stay in 20 years, you're 40. You stay in 30 years, you're 50. So what I did was, see, the Army sent me to George Washington for systems analysis, a master's degree in business. With systems analysis, that's what it was in those days.
Right.
Now it's information systems.
Right.
What I taught for 20. So I could never find, I was a full-time student, I could never find the professors. They were always all, I said, hey, I want to be one of those guys when I grow up. So as soon as I finished The Masters, I went to work at Defense Communications Agency. Now it's Defense Information Systems Agency. And I enrolled in a doctoral program at GW. And I got my doctorate in 79. And it was 2 years after I retired. I retired, so I was about to be sent overseas because they only had 4 06s who were trained in information systems, and the general wanted me over there right away. So I said, well, I got 2 years degree, I don't have to go, so I'll retire within 6 months, which I did. It's the best thing I ever did, because I don't think I was going to make a general anyway. But in any case, I finished my doctorate at GW, and then I went to teach at West Virginia Tech. I was teaching COBOL and Fortran, so you know how long ago that was. And the basic course was called data processing, info to data processing. And then I got a call from a friend of mine who I worked with at the University of Maryland while I was finishing up my doctorate. And I had to have an office, so I could have a telephone, reproductive stuff, you know, Xeroxing for my dissertation.
Right. And
I met him, and he was up there on a temporary basis. Anyway, he went back and he said, we're starting a program here, and they need somebody to teach information, data processing. It was then. And I changed it to information systems, and they still use the same lesson plan that I wrote.
Really?
Back in 1981 when I went there. Yeah. So I was there until 2001, and I retired at age 73.
Great.
And I'm still, if you notice, I'm emeritus.
So they
Social professor. I'm still there. I'm the president of the retirees chapter at William Patterson University. I think that's the one that had.
Right.
Yeah. I still have email address there, and I still get mail, and I call up the AFT office, American Federation of Teachers. All of the institutions in New Jersey that are state directed are members of AFT. So every institution has a local. So ours is local 1796. So I'm AFT local 1796 retirees chapter. So you have to be under the local.
Right.
And there's only 2 chapters in the state of New Jersey, and that's at Rowan. It used to be Glassboro. And it's now, the guy gave $10 million to get his name. so it changed from Glassboro to Rowan.
Right.
So they have a chapter, and I went there and learned how to run a retirees chapter, and I've been president now for the last 3 years. William Patterson. So I'm up there at least every other month, and I'm at City College. I'm on the board there. I've been on the board for 25 years.
Wow.
And we have a chapter, CCNY has a chapter here in Washington, and I'm the past president. I'm the past president of the Clifton High School Alumni Association. And I'm up there, I still go to the meetings. I was there last week before last, for our last meeting before the summer break. And we had our dinner at the Bronx Zoo, at the Dancing Cranes Cafe, right next to the gorilla cage.
Excellent.
So we have a graduate of Clifton High School who works there, and he took everybody on a tour. And we recognized the 50-year class, and they had something like 50 people.
Oh, wow. Great.
Yeah, but everybody goes, we recognize 5, 10, 25, 50. But, you know, everybody, so we had about 500 people. For high school, it's pretty good.
That is very good.
And we give out $30,000 a year in scholarships. We've had people die and leave us $20,000.
Right.
Yeah, people, they love their high school.
Right.
I told you with the demographics.
Sounds like a great high school to go to.
Yeah. So.
How can I get back in there?
Well, but things have changed. Like I said, the Jewish population was about 90%, and today it's 95% black and Hispanic. But the board, the alumni board, is still the same. and we put in 2 computer rooms. We built the athletic field.
Great.
With dues money. We've got probably, by the way, we have a chapter in D.C. We have 200 graduates of DeWitt Clinton High School that are in the Washington area.
So you're giving back to the school still. That's excellent.
Back to both.
Yeah, right. So what about veterans groups? Do you belong, or did you belong to any veterans groups?
I belong to a lot of groups. 82nd Airborne Division Association, 11th Airborne Division Association, the 18th Airborne Corps Association.
That's a lot of reunions.
Yeah, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you that I'm a senior Olympian.
Oh, really?
And I'm also a commissioner. I used to run, but now I just 5 and 10K cycling, badminton, singles, and racquetball, and standing long jump. But I'm a life member.
Great.
Of that. And
Cheryl? Can you think of anything that we can get him on that maybe he hasn't done? I think he's done everything.